for me, once I have that relief, I will put everything in scope, what to do, when to do, how to do, and then move on.
Okay. So you're saying that if you put the right timelines, you will be successful.
That is correct.
What is the timeline that you have for making this decision?
See, this is, I think, the biggest dilemma that I have. Of course, when you have your own business, I mean, it takes time. It's not the same. I mean, if I go into corporate world, there's a salary, there's an income, there's a revenue that you achieve. And as long as everything goes well, monthly, you'll have that income coming in, no matter what, right? Until and when. So whereas in your own business, it takes 6 months, 1 year, sometimes up to 3 years. And that does worry me. Again, it's not only financially, it's just that's, let's say, the time period will that erode my motivation? Because eventually you'll say, you know what, maybe this is not working, maybe I should go back to corporate world. It's very easy to steer away from that motivation. So yeah, I guess the timeline is the one that makes me worry more than anything else.
So if you're okay, shall we start?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So tell me, what would you like to talk about today?
Well, Dr. Harris, I've been working for a company for the last almost 18 years, and I'm just leaving at the moment my post. And obviously, it's been such a long time, and it was a very successful journey. But it's time for me to move on and to look for other opportunities and to grow further. And I think the only way I could do that is by, let's say, dive into the job market or to do my own business. So I'm in between. Shall I go back to the corporate world and do the same thing or better or even bigger, however, or shall I start my own something? So I'm at the dilemma at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're at a dilemma to whether to start your own business or move to another corporate. And just for me to understand more, have you already resigned or are you still working somewhere?
I've resigned, yes.
Okay, you resigned. So you're at a place where you have to make a decision.
That is correct.
Mm-hmm. So tell me, by the end of this conversation together, what are you expecting us to take away?
I guess, I mean, just like during our coaching trainings, I've always felt like I do know the answer, but sometimes I have a bit of, let's say, I wouldn't call it a doubt, but like fight inside for the right answer. Obviously, I know all the paths and which way to go, which way not to go. Yet it's like, making the right decision sometimes takes a while. And if you're a calculating person, which I am, I think about all the details, and I think about not only tomorrow, but 1 year from now, 5 years from now. Of course, it's impossible to know the exact outcome. I know the possible outcomes. And then I'm also thinking it's not only my own decision, but it's also my family's decision. Obviously, whatever I do next is going to affect them. And again, it's not only financial. It can be just about satisfaction, about to be able to spend more time with them. It's just, I guess, there's a bit of a fight inside and what to do next.
So I understand you think there's a fight inside and you do know the answer. However, there's a fight and you also seem to be overthinking.
That's correct.
Yeah. If we consider all of that, what will be a very satisfying answer at the end of a session for yourself?
I mean, I guess at some point it's a matter of, and I can do this for business decisions. It's especially when I'm working for a company, because I know what's better for the company, what's worse for the company, what's the interest of the company. So it's very easy to make a decision. When it's only my decision, then I start considering every aspect in and out. And it's rather than a professional, it's also sometimes emotional decision making. I guess at some point I have to make a decision and just move on. At this point, I don't want to stall any longer, obviously, and move on with the right decision at some point.
So when it's a business decision, you pretty well know how to make it, but when it's personal, there are a lot of emotion, and you want
that
to
is
make
correct.
it.
That is correct.
And tell me, when you have made this decision, how does it serve you? So let's say you do not have a fight with yourself or within yourself. You able to decide whether you own business or at the next corporate? How does
Right.
it how would it feel like for you?
Of course, there'll be a lot of release, or at least relief, I would say, because when I focus 100%. It's not only in my business in my business doings, but also in my personal life, in sports as well. When I focus on something, I focus very well, and I move on, and I try to do my best more than 100%, and that's why, like, I think the initial will be a relief that I make the decision. Now it's time to move on to the next level, to do the right things, the right process.
So imagine that you're already relieved.
Yeah.
And there's no fight within yourself. What do you see happening with you?
I think it will be like, the chimps on my back will be taken off, and I will flourish again. Because again, once I focus on something, I do it. And it's just a matter of making that decision and then moving on. So I think right away it will be a huge relief, and it will be just day to day getting to achieve what I want to achieve.
And I would again go back to my question. Imagine you already have that relief.
Yes.
What is happening then?
First, psychologically, I will start feeling better. And then, of course,
sorry for the interruption.
Sorry.
Imagine you have it now. Then how are you feeling now if you have it, the relief?
Right away, I will feel, so much better. Let's put it this way. So much better.
And when you feel better, how do you see yourself operating, moving?
And after that, it's just a matter of literally having the process in place, and like literally step by step. Because what I like to do, my background is in logistics. So what I like to do is, in any project, I like to break it down to biteable size, timeline, like a critical path, they call it, obviously, in the project management, and then literally do that. So because if you do everything at the right time, unless there's some huge issue, such as, let's say, there's a financial crisis, or you really don't know what you're doing, as long as you're doing the right step at the right time, you will be successful to an extent, right? Either very successful, medium successful, little successful, but you will be successful because, again, you just have to do the things at the right time. So it's literally, for me, once I have that relief, I will put everything in scope, what to do, when to do, how to do, and then move
on. Okay. So you're saying that if you put the right timelines, you will be successful.
That is correct.
What is the timeline that you have for making this decision?
See, this is, I think, the biggest dilemma that I have. Of course, when you have your own business, it takes time. It's not the same. If I go into corporate world, there's a salary, there's an income, there's a revenue that you achieve. And as long as everything goes well, monthly, you'll have that income coming in, no matter what, right? Until and when. So whereas in your own business, it takes 6 months, 1 year, sometimes up to 3 years. And that does worry me. Again, it's not only financially, it's just that's, let's say, the time period, will that erode my motivation? Because eventually you'll say, you know what, maybe this is not working, maybe I should go back to corporate world. It's very easy to steer away from that motivation. So I guess the timeline is the one that makes me worry more than anything else.
So the time of business that it will take.
That is correct.
To succeed.
That is correct.
And what about corporate? Let's talk a little bit about corporate. So here I understand for business, there's a worry about in terms of when would it take off, when would it succeed?
That's correct.
Here. How about corporate? Is there a worry there too?
It's a worry that, I guess, after you have, I have now 24 years experience. When you have that much of experience, obviously you want to be able to carry on with your own decisions. And when there's a bit of, let's say, some type of pressure on your decisions made, then it becomes, I have all these experiences, I know what I'm doing, but I still have to answer, right? So, again, I don't mind reporting, definitely. That's everyone reports to someone in the end of the day, especially if you're in the corporate world. But And when you get to a certain experience, you don't want to be told what to do. You want to be able to tell what's the right thing. And of course, the outcome, you're more than happy to answer if the outcome is not right. But up until then, you should have the autonomy. And I think in the corporate world, this is in general, by the way, that there's always the autonomy is very limited, especially in some companies is more open, less limited. But in general, there's a lot of limitation, especially when you're a seasoned individual.
Hmm. Hmm. So is the lack of autonomy worry here?
That is correct. And of course, a new workplace, I'll never know the culture. I'll never know the people until and when I work with them. And things come up later on, whereas maybe it's very controlling, maybe a lot of micromanagement. Then it becomes, not, let's say, a good place to work for.
Hmm. Hmm. So for corporate, I hear a few concerns, and I hear a few concerns for your own business.
That is right.
Which one, if you were to still have those concerns and still move on, which one would you like to pick up?
I guess, I mean, up until very, very recently, right? That, in the corporate world, especially in our generation, now I'm at the age of 45, 46, is like you say, you know what, this is it. This is the way it goes. You just have to manage it the way it is. It's like managing upwards, downwards, and all. I guess you just play the corporate game in the end of the day, as much as you stay within your authentic yourself, but you do have to, at some point, work within your, let's say, boundaries. Whereas in your own business, you can call the shots. Is it politics free? It's impossible, I guess, because in the end, you'll still work with people, you'll have clients, you'll have employees, and things are not that simple. Yet, in the end of the day, if it's your own business, of course, you create the culture, you call the shots, you give your own self and autonomy, you empower your colleagues and employees. So I guess the advantage of that, the creating a company culture, is a lot more simpler when it's your own company, obviously.
So which one resonates now with you? What is resonating? Not forget which one, but what is resonating now with
At this point, it's of course my own business, just because that I have the experience, I can manage things, I can do things the way I want them to be, and hopefully make one of the best employers in the world.
And I'm noticing a lot of conviction in your language already.
True.
How is that conviction of language not making you act?
Very good. I guess it's the things that I cannot control sometimes. I mean, recently I was thinking of accounts receivable. I mean, it's as simple as, okay, you do a service, you do it well, customer is happy, but the customer does not pay on time or does not pay at all. Then what do? And especially if it's your own business, if it's in the beginning, if you don't get paid, that will affect your bottom line right away, right? So when you're working for a corporate business, of course you run after the accounts receivable. Of course you'll have to get the money in, but in the end of the day, it's the company that takes the hit, not yourself. Again, I'm not saying that I'm not taking accountability, and I'll always go for the extra mile to get it, and I always been. Thank God I did. But when it's your own business, and when you're actually literally counting each accounts receivable, then it becomes a very important matter. Whereas it's not only a business problem, then it becomes your own personal problem right away.
And then what happens? I mean, I understand that this is a sort of a worry here. Then exactly. What happens?
I guess since it's normally easy to go back to corporate world, I think if something does not work, even if to a certain percentage, then I will always kind of look aside. Okay, maybe you know what? Maybe I should go back to the corporate world. Maybe I don't want my wife to complain. Blah blah blah. So it's always that that open door. I mean, because you'll never close at 100%, obviously, because there's always has to have an option. That one door, you might always open it. That's why I think the major issue sometimes.
What's the major issue with this open door?
Then, I mean, of course, if you're burned once, especially at your own business, it is very hard to get back up and say, you know what, I'll try again and again and again. Especially in today's world with all these expenses, again, not only financially, with all the pressures from family, from other things. If I go back to corporate world, it'll be for good, right? I mean, I won't just keep going from one door to another. So it's just that at this point, it's probably the best time to try go for my own business. But again, if anything goes wrong, it will be always like my mind will say, you know what, maybe it's better just go for the corporate world, get your salary, move on, and things like that.
And when do you think that is happening? Your mind is saying that let's go back to corporate world. When is that happening with you?
I will say probably within a year. So if things do not work within a year, I don't think so. I mean, 3 years is a long time. And there's a normal saying that up until 3 years, don't expect any business to make positive outcome, which is realistic. But then I think 3 years is such a marathon, it will be very hard. So I think 1 year would be the cutoff line. And then after that, you will have to kind of like, that's the option of going back to corporate world.
So for 1 year, you will do everything for your business, so you can do everything for business, but if it doesn't work, just in case.
That's correct. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, unless I really see let's say, if you see the light in the end of the tunnel, you might stretch it a bit, but how much can you stretch? Because I mean, 3 years is a very long time, 2 years is a very long time. I think 1 year is kind of like a deadline, which is kind of show you, you know what, this is working, or you know what, this is really not working. Maybe it's better to go back to the world.
So are you saying that working on a business is a tunnel and choosing to open the other door of corporate is the end of the tunnel?
It's like kind of like a emergency exit. I guess it's more like an emergency exit. So that you can that tunnel is looking longer and longer. So just get off from here. It happened to my son. He was in one of those horror houses and he got scared and he just ran out from the emergency door. So something like that, I guess. Sometimes it can be like that outside in the business world.
So it seems exit is an option.
Always an option. And maybe when it's easy to, then it becomes even biggest dilemma, right? Because if it's easy, then you're like, oh my God, why am I taking all this risk and stress, different type of stress? You know what, I just go back to corporate world, do what I do very best, get my salary, grow within the company. Hopefully that's the idea. But then I think if it was very hard. So for example, I see that in people who have not had much education, they are very hungry for entrepreneurial spirit because there is no other option, right? If you don't have what do you call a diploma, certain, of course, jobs you cannot take. What happens with those people? Sometimes they get really, really motivated for their own business and they do very well. Whereas people that are very smart, educated, yet they've never taken that entrepreneurial step, they always stay behind, right? So that's, I guess, the main thing, that when you have nothing to lose, then it's of course a bit easier to just dive in. But when you have something to lose, then you say, maybe it's better to do this way.
So when you know something to lose, you take that exit, the emergency exit.
Yes.
And if you have nothing to lose, you have no exit. So you will give yourself best.
That's true. I mean, it's kind of like an investment, right? In investment, the banks always give you a test how risky investor you are. I think I always come in the middle to low, just because that, I don't like to go crazy and bet all my eggs in one basket. I mean, I've never been like that. I mean, I like to, of course, win, but if there's a huge risk of losing, then I say, what's the point? I mean, I rather grow like this than grow like this and then just drop, So it's the same thing, I guess, in my personality too.
And is that helping you for your decision, or is that not helping you for making?
I think it's sometimes not helping because I am overthinking. I'm thinking too many details, and sometimes it's like it just makes me kind of like that's like makes you stall, makes you stop, hit the brakes, because you can just take off. Again, how good do you take off? Because again, you can jump very high and can fall pretty bad too, or you can keep going higher. So I think in this case, overthinking does make me stall, does make me overthink.
And especially, I understood from you that you said you resigned recently. So you've got limited.
That is correct. So
tell me, what are you learning now about your situation?
I mean, it's it's great to go back to the basics sometimes and start drawing, business plans and thinking and being very creative. It's actually exciting. I have to say that, it's like almost like wearing a two hat, actually three hats. One hat is, of course, being very creative, thinking, talking to many people. I love it. I mean, I've even did a couple international visits to different countries for different ideas. I even started some consultancy, which is great. This is like, some people are asking me questions and then they want me to prepare something. I prepare for them. I mean, this is a great experience. I love it. Of course, it's limited in its scale at the moment, yet it's really promising. Another thing is staying with family, spending more time with the family. It's an amazing thing. I've always compromised from my family for business purposes. And personally, I just love it. I think that's priceless. That I can tell that I can do this now, I can do that now. But of course, I'm thinking if I'm in the business 100%, maybe I will never be able to switch off as well. Because again, when you're in corporate world, you take a vacation, you go on vacation. Of course, you're in contact with your colleagues, with your clients as much as possible. But it's a more of like a soft touch rather than like being involved 100%. And when it's your own business, I guess you can never switch off. My father always had his own business and he always told me to work for a company because for him, he never had a vacation in his lifetime. It's unbelievable, actually. So he always told me that having your own business means you never have a vacation. Of course, some people are very good at a discipline. I know myself, which I wouldn't call myself a workaholic, but I do think, and I'm always involved in the business that I am, I will never be able to switch off. And I can see that now, like on the weekends and as well, I'm, having emails, I'm responding to emails and so on. So it's just, there's a bit of a threat. If it's my own business, there's no way to switch off. But other than that, it's very rewarding. You're learning so much. Every day you're meeting someone else and, you can venture out. You don't have to stay within. You can literally do anything you want at the moment. I love that fact as well.
And so what is the decision? I mean, are you coming closer towards the decision in your thinking? How is your thinking evolving?
I mean, at the moment, it's weighing towards having my own business. It's getting there. Again, there are options of the corporate world, so that's like almost like someone is knocking on the door. So, by the way, I'm not closing any doors to anyone at the moment. I'm listening to everyone, hearing everyone, talking to everyone, and I think that will probably lead me towards the right decision, anyways, eventually. Because I don't want to have any prejudice. I don't want to have any preconceived decision making, saying that no, I'll never do that. I never say that. Couple times there was, let's say, opportunities maybe to go for another country, actually 2 countries, that I started saying no to because I thought that over. Obviously, my family will not move, at least in the short term, definitely not. And I really don't want to be away from family. I think that's just not as healthy. Even if it's for short, it's okay going back and forth, but it will take a toll eventually on relationships, on other things. So I thought that maybe if I were to make a decision now, definitely I'll stay in Dubai and then make a decision with this region rather than another.
You're keeping all the doors open, and a family seems to be a big value for you. The time with family
Definitely
does influence your decision.
Definitely.
And so what are you learning now? So I understand you're leaning more towards your own business, but what are you learning about yourself? Is there a relief you're experiencing, or what is happening in you?
Yeah, I think it's very exciting. It's kind of like starting a new school, starting a new job, or starting a new phase in your life. It's like you feel like this is the time where you get to understand and be aware of yourself. And I think over the years, as much as I think that I've never changed, probably there has been some changes. Maybe I'll discover further. I think in core, I kept the principles always strong, never change in certain character of mine, which I feel that is the appropriate. And I've always been my authentic myself. So that's the good thing. But of course, in around it, I must have some changes, and I'm learning that every day. And it's like for example, spending time with family. Before, it was like in between my job and business. Now it's like, okay, you know what? Probably I should make time with my son. Say to him, like, you know what? This time is only for you. Let's do whatever you want. You want to go play together outside? You want to go watch a movie? I think like sometimes it's happened to us, Dr. Harris, if you remember during the pandemic, is like where we realized how important it was to be at home once in a while. Of course, after a while, it was too long. I have to say that it's good to have a change in space and location, but it brought people back to their families, stronger bonds and so on. And people realize how important it is.
Right, right. So what's happening now?
Now it's like it's literally every day. I have so many meetings. It's actually quite busy, and I was telling my wife the other day that I literally couldn't take any vacation. It's. I thought that after you change your you change your work life, you take a nice long vacation and then decide on what to do. I mean, in my case, because I knew that if I ever go on vacation, I will always think anyway. So it's better to figure out what I'm going to do and then maybe take a little bit of vacation. So yeah, right now is like literally I'm doing a lot of meetings, a lot of business plans, a lot of reports, a lot of research, going back and forth with certain things, for certain, let's say, processes. And then, yeah, this is where I am. Of course, I think within a month's time that I will make the final decision. I will have to. But right now, I'm quite open still.
Okay. So what seems now for you is the next step?
I guess filtering and I guess making sure that taking the number of ideas and number of things on my plate to a certain number, and then I guess because this is how I always did as well. Like if I got options, I always start eliminating and then ending up with 2 options, and then of course you take the one decision on it. So I think I'll have to do the same because at the moment it's been a lot. I mean, it's been like more than 10. That is options from the corporate world and options from the business world. So like how to do. So I guess I have to limit, filter, and then leave it to 2, 3, and then make the final decision.
And how will that happen?
I guess, I mean, in my case, it's been over the last, let's say, 1 month's time where I'm looking at everything. Obviously, some of them, like, for example, if it's in another country, right away, I start eliminating, right? I say, thank you very much. I'm not planning on doing this. Or I ask, is there flexible working? I mean, can I live in Dubai and then travel to that country and back once in, like, let's say, once a week, a couple times a month? And if there's a case of that doesn't work, then of course, then it's thank you very much, and I move on to the next. So I guess right now I'm eliminating as we go.
And how is the end of it look like for you now?
Well, I mean, I hope that I've eliminated down to the best 2 decisions and then make the final decision. So I mean, at the moment, and certain times you don't get the full details on anything. So, I mean, of course, the more you research, the more you look into something, you find pros and cons. And that's why the timeline within this, let's say 1 month or whichever the timeline, you might drop it in the beginning, you might drop it towards the end. So at the moment, it's more about research and talking to the people, getting the facts, statistics. And these are very important things because I want to make a decision. When I make a business decision, that has to be very professional. It has to be every, let's say, statistic data has to be taken into consideration. And if it's a personal decision, emotion has to be taken into consideration as well.
And it is a personal decision, right? So emotions are important. And
that is correct.
You would want to feel relieved.
That is correct.
Where are you on that? From where we started to where we are in the conversation?
I mean, again, like it's always with you, Dr. Harris, right? Eventually, I find my own answer as well. It's going towards, of course, the business side heavier and heavier, just because then I can control at least the process a lot easier and better. I can spend time with family and so on. So I'm leaning towards there at the moment.
And what is the first step? If you're leaning there, what's the first step?
Because within that, I have a couple options as well. I guess, again, filtering down to two the options, and then choose one and thank everyone else, and roll up sleeves and just dive in. That's the way it is.
Okay, so filter, eliminate, from two, choose one, roll up sleeves and dive in.
That is correct.
How will you do that? I mean, how would you roll up sleeves and dive in?
I mean, I've never been shy of work. I mean, up until very recently, that whatever I have to do for work, as long as it's within ethics, I do. I mean, in my career, I carried very heavy boxes. I got hernia out of it. So that shows my commitment. I don't mind even carrying a box, even if I'm in a senior position. I love mentoring younger professionals, teaching, learning, and I love to learn anyway. So in my case, like, I've never been shy. And I mean, recently I've been to a couple places where I've talked to people from behind the counter. Again, I love having a conversation because you learn so much. There are some people who likes to keep the communication with only top tier. Personally, I always believe that you need to have diverse conversation with diverse backgrounds so you can get a 360 view. You can never get all the information from the top. You can never get all the information from the bottom. You have to speak for the whole spectrum. And personally, I just love that. And that's what I'm doing at the moment. I'm talking to a lot of people from all walks of life.
Okay. So how do you feel about this conversation so far?
It's always great to speak to you, Dr. Harris. I mean, for me, especially sometimes certain things I cannot speak out loud, even with the family. It's great to be able to speak. I think that is the first relief anyways, right? A lot of people keep things inside and just grows and grows and grows. It's better to kind of let it out. And because sometimes also other people have things to say about your situation because maybe they've been there, they've done that, they've gone through a similar situation, and they can give you certain cues and tips and so on. And doesn't have to be that they make a decision for you, but it might be a good influence. You have to make a decision, of course, on that. If you take that, let's say, piece of information to your advantage, to your disadvantage. This is why I'm a very communicative person. I love talking to people. I love getting information. I love to be open with what I have. Then I know that people can give me also their, let's say, experience and what they think about the situation.
Okay. Okay. Tell me one thing that you will move on with.
I think I'll just, since I have the experience, since I have certain knowledge, I should, again, be 100% sure of what I know is the right thing and just move on it. Because again, having doubts or thinking that, okay, maybe this might not work, then it can you put yourself 2 steps ahead and then 1 step back. It's better to always, even if it's 1 step, but a consistent 1 step ahead. I think from what I've learned from this conversation and coaching sessions, that definitely, if you believe in something, just move on. Don't think of too much details, because then it's like, again, you're just thinking, overthinking, and going in circles. If you remember at the time, my biggest dilemma when I was having my coaching sessions was if I should have a surgery or not on my knee. If you remember, I had an ACL injury and I had multiple, actually, it was a really bad knee injury. And I was going from doctor to doctor. All the doctors were saying that there's nothing else you can do, but you have to have a surgery. There was one doctor, a particular doctor, who said, "Guys, do you have time?" I said, "Sure, I'm not a professional player. I can manage." He says, "Let's try everything. If it fails, you have to have a surgery. If it doesn't fail, you'll get away without having a surgery and you can move on with your life." Can you believe, Dr. Harris? I mean, I've done almost 1.5 years of physiotherapy, a lot of work on it. And in reality, especially in some people, if you make the other muscles strong around your knee is not loose. And it's exactly what happened to me. So I made the other things so strong that it actually helped it, what you call the strength of the knee. So I actually didn't have to have a surgery in that. I didn't do the surgery. Was it an easy thing? It wasn't. But I remember that you were also saying that, because we had a couple of sessions on this, that if you believe in it, go for it. And I wouldn't call it a miracle, but it's almost a miracle. That is, sometimes you have to kind of believe in yourself, obviously, and just go with it. And thank God it worked in my favor in this one.
So you want to develop other muscles as well.
Good point. Exactly. I do. So this is probably the same thing. And in this case, I will have to develop other muscles that maybe I didn't have or I didn't, utilize before.
Also, two things that I noticed in the conversation. One is when you spoke about your dad, and dad said you should rather do a job and not a business.
That is correct.
So just think about that. Maybe is that creating kind of a limitation in your thinking?
Of course. And, for me, my dad, I respect him highly, and I've seen him, and I have not seen him even on the weekends. I mean, I've never seen him on any holidays because he was always working. He had his own shop, and he was doing more business during holidays so he had to stay there, right? So for me, him saying that, he means something. It's not just a father trying to limit his son. He's telling for the right, for the good of me. So that's, of course, it has a lot of weight in my life.
So that's one thing you may want to consider, is that blocking you somewhere. So you want to get out of that.
Yes, that's true.
And other, I also feel when you are talking about the door or the exit.
Yes.
I've noticed for myself, and I'm talking
Yes.
I'm not talking from the experience of anybody or anything.
Yes.
But when I moved from corporate to my own business of CTA, I can tell you it took almost 2 years to just remove from LinkedIn that I'm not working and I will have my own business.
Right. Yes.
Because you wanted to keep that exit always open.
Yes.
What if it doesn't work?
Yes.
So I think it's just a normal progression. And I think one needs to be just ready with that progression. So everybody goes through it, but if you have an exit, you will always go back to it. But if you fully believe that there's no exit,
right,
it has to be the tunnel.
Yes.
It's not about the end is corporate, but it's about the end is success of this tunnel.
Correct.
So I may have a darker side of it, but I have a brighter side after some time.
As well, that is true. I guess it's how do you shorten that distance and go for the final tunnel with the light. I agree.
But also, I think when it comes to business, you got to learn to be practical too. You can't just have emotions with it.
That is true.
I mean, you can't just say, okay, let me just leave the job, not worry about finances, don't think too much. Let's just head on, go ahead with business. So be practical. And that's how you make a decision, because practicality in business is important.
That is true.
In family, I understand decisions. You may have your emotions taking over, and that are important to keep in mind. True. But with business, I think we got to be taking a more of a practical approach.
That is correct.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you so much. Are we in a good place now?
Yes. Yes, Dr. Thank you very much again.
Welcome. Thank you so much to you for your time.
Appreciate that.